New school, new rules, same old threat. A fork slips, a door shuts, and a house goes quiet. A stepfather believes pain is a lesson. A mother thinks obedience is safety. And a boy named Eric learns the first lie of his life, that violence solves anything. It doesn't. It just multiplies. He shakes hands with the man who just beat him because that's what this house calls making peace. But outside that front door, all that pressure has to go somewhere. At school, Eric explodes. He swings at the wrong kid, the wrong time, the wrong way, until even his friend is on the floor. Teachers see the damage, not the cause. He's expelled. Again. The cycle feels set until his mother plays her last card. Starberg. An elite boys' boarding school where tradition has sharper teeth than any teacher. On the drive in, his mother lays it out. Last chance. One more misstep and the future closes. Eric really promises. He'll do whatever it takes to graduate. New uniform, short hair, fresh start, and a roommate with a mind like a scalpel. Pierre is everything this place wants to be proud of. Top marks, steady rhythm, clean jokes. He shows Eric the dorm, the dining hall, the routes that save you 2 minutes between bells. Then Johan, cheerful observant, slides in beside them at dinner and explains the rule Starberg pretends it doesn't have. Status decides your life. Noble sons sit at the head table. Everyone else orbits them. The faculty looks away because the donations keep the lights on. Traditions, they call it. Starberg calls it order. The kids call it survival. Meet the order. Calm smile, expensive posture, and Dalen, loud, quick, with the elbow, call a boy from the edge of the bench to the far end of the table like they're summoning a waiter. He's from an ordinary family, they're not. That's all that matters. Favors get demanded. Tasks get assigned. And when someone refuses, the lesson is public. One shove, one slap, one warning. Everyone is watching, and everyone understands the math. If Otto and Delan pick you, the school won't save you. Eric watches. He swallows the first insult. He swallows the second. He swallows the initiation order that shows up in his room like a summons. Clean shoes, crawl, prove you belong. He says no. Not loud, not dramatic. He just doesn't move. That quiet no is gasoline. Johan pays for it. In the corridor, in front of everyone, Otto splits Johan's head with a casual strike, and the crowd parts for medical staff. This is all a drill. Eric can taste metal and guilt and rage. The no stayed in his throat. His friend bled for it. The retaliation doesn't stop. That night, Eric is called into a room stacked with dirty shoes and told to be useful. He looks at the pile, looks at the faces, and walks out. Delan is furious, pacing, ready to prove he's dangerous. Otto smiles and tells him to wait. Starberg punishes for spectacle, not for justice. Mourning will make it hurt more. The next day, the trap is as old as schools. A bump in the corridor, a fake apology demanded, a circle that closes. Delan wants a fight now. Tonight, at a spot everyone knows. Pierre warns Eric what this really is. A gang up, not a duel. Eric almost says yes anyway. He almost gives the school the file it wants on him. Violent, uncontrollable, gone. Instead, he remembers the promise in the car and tells himself to wait. He goes back to his room. He smokes with Pierre, nervous hands, eyes on the clock. Otto and Delan wait at the meet spot for hours. Eric never shows. So, they escalate. At breakfast, Eric follows a phantom smell playing dumb, stopping right behind Otto's chair as the nobles eat like nothing can touch them. "Stink you," he says, loudly enough for the hall to hear. The room freezes. For 3 seconds, it's a comedy beat. Then the rule reasserts itself. Otto attacks. Teachers keep eating. The room watches. It's not a secret anymore. This place protects its ladder. Not everyone looks away. A cafeteria worker named Maria notices Eric. She tells him he reminds her of her brother, the same tilt of the chin, the same refusal to bow. She tells him to take care of himself. She tells him to stop smoking. She breaks the rules she's supposed to enforce. And one night, when the trench punishment has him working late and eating alone, Maria finds him again. A warning turns into a kiss. They both know what that means here. For him, expulsion. For her, a job gone overnight. They do it anyway. Christmas break arrives like a white sheet thrown over a crime scene. Eric goes home. His mother smiles. His stepfather reads the report card like a charge sheet. He hears the word noble, and the old class worship lights in his eyes. A noble's son should be obeyed, he says. Eric keeps his jaw tight. No, he says inside his head. No, he'll say when he gets back at Starberg, punishment is formalized. Otto runs a mock trial that isn't a trial. The sentence is theater. Dig a meter-deep trench around the grounds, clean steps. Show you can be made small. Eric works until his hands ache. He eats alone. Maria sits beside him and talks like the world is ordinary for 5 minutes at a time. For 5 minutes, it almost is. Then the story does what these stories do when patience won't protect you anymore. It goes after the person you can't afford to lose. Delon provokes again. He waits after class. He finds Pierre. One punch, one collapse, one ruinous silence. Eric arrives too late to stop it, just in time to see the cost stamped on his friend's face. The sound drops out. The hallway is a tunnel. Eric breathes once, twice, and then he stops being a passenger in his own story. A challenge is issued. Not in whispers. Not in shadows. Eric calls out Delon and the slick, posturing boy who stands beside him. Name the time, name the place. 1 hour. The boys who run the school make the mistake all bullies make when they think no one can touch them. They underestimate what it looks like when someone has finally decided to stop losing. The arena is a courtyard, a gym, a space with bright light and nowhere to hide. The school shows up. The circle closes. Delon comes in loud, fast, forearms swinging like clubs, chin in the air because most kids retreat. Eric doesn't retreat. He looks wrong for half a second. Square shoulders, hands too low, the posture of a kid who only knows how to brawl. He lets one land. He lets another graze. Dylan sees what he wants to see. The easy win. Then the floor shifts. It's not magic. It's discipline. The back foot slides. The hips align. The lead hand stops pushing and starts snapping. The eyes lock to the center line and the shoulders go quiet. The camera, if you were filming it, would stop lying. No shaky panic. No cheating angles. Clean light. Honest sound. Eric steps in and cuts space. First counter. Pop Delon's head jolts, and suddenly the loudest kid in Starberg is playing defense. One down. Otto's lieutenant, whatever name he uses today, tries to save the narrative by rushing in from the side. Eric's weight is already there. A pivot, a check, a trip that looks like an accident until the boy's back hits stone. 2 down. The crowd doesn't cheer. They hold their breath. Because something sacred to the school is wobbling and no one wants to say it out loud, maybe the ladder can fall. Eric doesn't gloat. He doesn't pound. He doesn't try to buy fear with extra punches. He shows control and then he stops. He looks at Delon, who is suddenly very small, and he says nothing. Silence is worse than insults. The circle opens because the fight is over, and the fight is over because someone finally treated violence like a tool instead of a toy. If this were a different story, that would be the end. Credits, slow clap, lesson learned. But Starberg is real in a way many schools are real. Fists decide afternoons. Paper decides futures. Before the sweat dries, the student council files a report. The principal finds courage inside policy, not principle, and Maria, who did nothing but care, becomes a piece of paper too. Word spreads that she's been fired. Eric runs to the kitchen to find her, and finds a letter instead, written in a hand that says goodbye without saying goodbye. He tucks it into his pocket like a talisman. It won't save him. It will be used against him. Because in places like this, the heart is always contraband. The expulsion is not a surprise. The reasons change depending on who's asking, but the outcome doesn't. Eric is told to pack up. He does. He moves through the corridors that just watched him win and feels the strange, hollow taste of losing anyway. And then something inside him, something old, wants to finish this in a way the boy from the opening scene would understand. He finds Otto in the woods, alone, walking like the earth belongs to him. A branch becomes a weapon in Eric's hand. He raises it. He tells Otto to kneel. And for the first time, Otto listens. He drops to his knees. Panic cracks the veneer, and a frightened child leaks through the suit. He reaches for a wallet and offers money, $10,000 to buy his life back. Eric refuses. Otto sobs. He begs. He vomits from fear. Eric looks down at the boy who has never been told no and cups his face and says it quietly, "I won't kill you. I'm not you." He drops the branch. He walks away. He walks back to school and picks up the phone instead. Gunnar, a lawyer with his card in Eric's pocket from a day when it seemed like nothing could change. "If you ever need help," Gunnar said once, and Eric needs it now. The man arrives at Starberg and does what Eric cannot do with his fists. He names what the adults chose not to see: a culture of caste, a pattern of bullying, a ledger of protection for the right last names. He speaks in the language institutions here: risk, exposure, headlines. The principal listens because there's finally something he's more afraid of than the noble's parents. In a meeting that feels like a confession, he agrees to the terms that should have been his duty all along. He reverses the expulsion. He disbands the student council Otto used like a throne. He signs papers that correct the papers that tried to erase a kid for refusing to bow. Eric thanks Gunnar because words feel small and absolutely necessary. Peace arrives strangely. The days that follow don't look heroic. They look normal. Classes, meals, jokes with Pierre, long walks that don't feel like surveillance. It holds until it doesn't have to anymore because the calendar says the word no one believed in back at minute 1, graduation. Eric in a gown, his mother crying, a photo taken that isn't a lie. And then one final door closes, and one final door opens. Home, the old house, the old man, the old script, paper in one hand, belt in the other, a speech about obedience loaded on his tongue. He lifts his arm to repeat a lesson that never taught anything. And the boy from the opening scene is gone. Eric steps in. He catches the arm. He says, "The thing that stops ghosts." This is the last time. He doesn't beat a man to become a man. He sets a boundary and enforces it. Then he tells him to leave. The door that was always a trap becomes an exit. Sometime later, by a platform or a corner where trains breathe, Eric finds Pierre again. Geneva is next for Pierre. Books, exams, a city that knows how to be old and curious at once. They promise to meet again. They will. Some friendships survive bad schools the way grass survives winter, quietly, then all at once. That's the story Starberg tried to bury. A boy who learned what to fight and what to refuse. He arrives defined by a house where pain pretends to be love. He steps into a school where money pretends to be order. He refuses the ritual that makes victims complicit. He pays for patience with a friend's blood. He flips a ladder in front of the very people who said ladders can't be flipped. Then, he refuses his worst self in the only place where it would have felt easy to keep him. And at the end, he chooses a tool stronger than his hands. Paper, used the right way. And a sentence stronger than a punch. No more. You can feel how each beat clicked into place. The dinner table. False peace. The new uniform promise. Johann's funny explanations that get serious in a breath. The corridor bump with the apology trap. The shoes piled high like a dare. The breakfast hall where teachers pretend not to see. Maria's kindness that costs her a job. Dylan's stage duel that never was. The courtyard reveal that flips silence into understanding. The woods where fear looks like an apology. The office where a principal learns the difference between order and leadership. The living room where a stepfather meets a line he cannot cross. If you lived anything like this, you recognize the math. Some battles require a crowd. Some victories happen where no one is watching. And the end of a cycle starts with one person who will not repeat it, even when every nerve in the body asks him to. Eric wasn't saved by a fight. A choice changed him. There's a difference. There's a reason this story lingers after the credits, because everyone at some point needed someone in a room to say no more and mean it. Watch what happens to the school after this. Tradition loses its costume. Rules stop being weapons. A council becomes a memory, and a kid who arrived as a problem graduates as a person who knows exactly what his hands are for and what they're not. That's a better ending than a stomp. That's what justice feels like when it grows up. So if you were back at that first table and someone called your name to the far end, would you go? Or would you look at the plate, look at the eyes, and choose the no that started everything here? Hold that answer. Let it complicate the easy version of this story, because that's what Starberg forced Eric to learn. The difference between fear and respect, between power and control, between winning and becoming what you hate. He learned it the hard way, but he learned it. And that's the last frame. Not the punch, not the kneel, not the bribe. It's a front door that opens outward for once, and a boy who doesn't look over his shoulder to make sure it stays open. He just leaves. He has somewhere to be.